Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I'm going to do a deck profile on a Blue Eyes Dragon Link deck for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So this deck, I do have this deck built in real life, and it's a sort of a fun deck to play. It is considered a combo deck, so if you don't like combo decks, then this deck is definitely not for you. So when I play this deck in real life, I oftentimes play it at best of one. It's not a super duper great deck to play in the best of three sort of format, namely because there's just a lot of hate cards that can hurt this deck, and even in a regular best of one sort of style gameplay, you do lose to some hand traps and stuff like that. So, like for example, the main weakness of this deck would probably be stuff like Ash Blossom. In the OCG format, definitely Max C. You also are weak to Nibiru. Um, a bit of draw and lock here, and if they have like card removal or like negation like Droplet or Dark Rule No More, makes it very hard to outplay those because your effects can't stop these, and or like maybe like evenly match or something like that. So for the most part, the objective of the deck is just to bring out a bunch of big rank 8 stuff and some negation. And all your negation and stuff come from your monsters. So, like I said, if they got a Dark Rule No More, or they got like a Forbidden Droplet, or if they need Biru, you essentially kind of lose. So, the entire deck consists mostly of extenders. So a bunch of cards that help you combo off and you know just recycle your stuff and go back and forth and whatnot. So the deck right now is kind of I would say I haven't got the chance to play it in Master Duels yet because I haven't, as you can see, I haven't really fully built out the deck yet. It's a very expensive deck to build out. Most of the cards are super, but there are a couple of like ultra cards that you cannot like not play. So yeah, the deck is kind of really hard to actually build. But if you're able to, you have the resources to give it a try. If you like playing Blue Eyes and you like playing rockets and some Dragon Links, or just combo in general, then this deck is pretty fun to play. So when I play this deck in real life, it's a very explosive deck. You can spend like a majority of the time just comboing. So like there's plenty of times where I sit there for 20 minutes if my opponent doesn't have any sort of like form of interaction. So like no Ash Blossom, no Joel and Lock or something like that. You can sit there and spend like 20 minutes summoning out monsters and then forming your final board. And when you pass turn, the game is generally decided there. If they can have some way to get rid of your monsters or negate their effects or something, and then they can maybe play through it. But if they don't have anything, it's essentially game over. But yeah, so the idea of the deck here is you have mainly three engines. You got the Blue Eyes engine for card advantage. You got Dragon Links, rockets to be extenders, and you have a bit of Chaos monsters. The Clap Serpents and the Lumineer to be extenders also, and the rest of your spells just kind of support that. Um, in the OCG, I opt to play some hand traps in interaction. Uh, because just because of how the meta is, if you don't play it, you kind of hard lose. So you have to play stuff like Maxi. You have to play probably Ash Blossom. You have to play Call by the Graves. So Ash Blossom and Call by the Graves. The main thing you're gonna be aiming to hit with this is other Maxis, because if they Maxi you, you are probably just gonna stop, because this deck requires almost every summon is gonna be a special summon. There's no normal summon outside of like normal summoning a Sage of Blue. So definitely you can even bump this up to 3 if you wanted to. However, this deck is kind of thick in the sense that there is a lot of cards in the deck. It's running 52 right now. You could probably trim a card here and there, or make the deck a full 60 card deck if you like to. I probably don't recommend a full 60 card deck, but I think around the 50s should be okay. 50s to like high 48, high 40s, like maybe 45 to 48 cards. Um, the deck mostly just draws and searches for itself, and like everything's an extender, so you're bringing out stuff from your deck. So you do thin out your deck quite a bit. You can almost go through half your deck in one turn if you get the right cards. So it's okay to have a I guess a thicker deck, more cards in your deck, but you might get a chance to break more often because you might not draw your combo pieces and stuff like that. But I guess the offside of that is that you won't draw your vanillas quite often either. Like you don't want to, if you're playing 40 cards, you have a higher chance of drawing into like blue eyes in your hand, or like one or two blue eyes in your hand. Where if you're playing a 50 card deck, you're most likely not going to be drawing into your one ofs or your your blue eyes. Like you don't want to draw into, for example, in this particular deck, you don't want to draw into red eyes. You don't want to draw into boot sector here. You want these cards like Boot Sector and Dragon Ravine, you want to search for using your extra deck. So there are cards like that where you don't want to draw into, and it's okay by increasing the deck count, you do see less chances of drawing into that. So that's the offside of it, but you do get a chance to break more often because your opponent not drawing your combo pieces as much. So yeah, it's consistency versus power and stuff like that. If you know that sort of dynamic, just pay attention on how you build this deck. So let me go ahead and explain how the deck works. If you've seen my other video, my real life deck profile, I kind of go into more of the combo side of it. I kind of show you some combos and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna really spend much time into going into combos, but I will explain to you some of the choices of the cards in the deck to kind of give you an idea of what purpose they serve. So we're gonna start off here with 3 blue eyes. So the blue eyes here is our main way of generating card advantage and then recycling it and speeding up our deck. So the deck focuses on searching out blue eyes white dragon with the stone here. So you search out a bunch of it, especially if you go into Crystron here. Crystron is a way to get out the stone, or you get into Sage of Blue, then you can search out the stone. So this is our main stone. This is the one that we're going to be abusing a lot. You're going to abuse it, you're going to try to draw out a bunch of blue eyes, and then you can either use it as discard fodder, or you can use it to recycle into your deck to with the Sharuja here, and then draw additional cards. So use it as discard fodder for Chaos Space, use it discard fodder for Melody, you can use it discard fodder as with Trade-in. Once you discard the blue eyes, it also helps to fill your graveyard with monsters so that you can special summon your Lumineer, your Chaos Emperor, and maybe your black and white dragon here. Now that I think about it, you probably don't need 2 of these, probably just 1 here. Let me edit that real quick. Yeah, so yeah, basically that's the main way that this deck works. It's essentially just doing that. You're basically kind of rinsing and repeating, and trying to draw and do stuff like that. So that's the blue eyes engine. So you got the main stones here. Is this one. You could play 3 of them actually rather than 2. You don't really need this stone. This stone is not that great in this deck. It's just an additional stone to kind of help recover some of your stuff in your graveyard. You can just cut this to 1, or you don't have to actually play 2. So this is the worst stone in this particular version. This stone is better in a pure blue eyes deck, but in a combo style deck, since it takes like a turn to activate or whatever, you don't really need to play this stone as much. So this is our you need Sage just to search out and get some general card advantage, some additional card advantage, and it's a body for you to go into Crystron Halqifibrax here. So that's your main normal there, so that's why you play the 3. Effect Veiler, it's just optional. This card is searchable with the Sage of Blue, and it also helps if you're going second. If you do get a maxi and you start your opponent tries to take the challenge, at least you have something to be able to discard for the maxi in order to negate at least 1 card. And so that's why we play the 1 copy of Veiler here. It's not super necessary for the deck. You can play it or cut it out. Next off, because we're playing in the OCG format, you definitely need 3 triple max C. Serves as your draw engine, and it also serves as a way to hose your opponent of their turn, essentially, since most of the game revolves around special summoning. Next off, Ash Blossom. Like these cards right here, these 5 cards, 6 cards, I don't play in real life. But in this particular format, I do play because you are playing the Max C and you need a way to stop opposing Max C. So that's why we are playing Ash Blossom. And so Ash Blossom you can draw into with Max C, or if someone Max C's you, you can Ash Blossom them and then continue your combo. So that's why we do play the Ash Blossom as kind of a protection and some form of interruption there. Next off, you got the Serpents here. So these are your other extenders. As you saw earlier, I took out one of them because I don't think you need the white one as much. The black one being the best in this deck because most of the stuff in your graveyard that you send or you send to the graveyard is light type, and so to summon black is just one light, banish one light to summon the black. So black is definitely gonna be better in the deck rather than white. So you don't need to play more copies of these, namely because they're recyclable. You can recycle them with Chaos Space because they're one of those cards that can't be normal or special unless you banish something. So they can be recycled with Chaos Space, or you can search them out with Chaos Space. So it's not you don't really need to play more than this set right here. In the TCG they're limited to both one each. So I would play both one. But in the OCG they're unlimited, so you can. But I don't think you need to play 3/3. Like that's just too much. So I'd go for this right here, for the 2/1 right here, which seems like to be a pretty good ratio. Next off is the rocket engine. These 5 rockets are namely as extenders, so you need the tracer. It's also a tuner, level 4 tuner. So tracer, you can pick any other level 4 rocket monster. It doesn't really matter. And then you have the absolute router. So part of the combo is you can you go into Ramulus here, you search out Ravine, and you can dump something and then dump the router, grab your other rockets, and then like use Boot Sector to summon out the additional rockets for body. Or if you want to, you can link them into a Savage Dragon here. So that's what the rockets are for, because you do play 1 Boot Sector and you do play triple quick launch here. So yeah. Next off, Blue Eyes Alternative, just another body. Namely, you have this plus the Sage. You can go immediately into Crystal Hybrid Halfrack if you wanted to, or you can go into Spirit Dragon. Oftentimes you're gonna go into the this to start off your combo. You rarely are gonna go into Spirit Dragon unless you have nothing else to do. So that's why you play the 2. It's searchable. It's a hard once per turn summon, so having 3 of them in your hands not gonna really do too much. And so just 2 copies is good enough. One for an extra copy in case the other one dies or something. But yeah, just 2 here. Next off, Lumineer. I like Lumineer at 2. You can play it at 1, but I think 2 is a good number for the deck because you can actually bring out 2 of these in 1 turn. Obviously, you can only use one of their effects. But you're able to like use the second one as another body. If you loaded up your graveyard with a bunch of stuff, you can definitely use this as another body to beat over stuff, or to continue into exceeding into bigger dragons. And then Chaos Emperor, I like him. He's still good. He kind of helps you recover some cards from your banished zone, and he is really easy to summon. He's just a light in the dark, and he's kind of reusable. So yeah, and searchable with Melody. So I do like playing 1 Chaos Emperor here. Totally optional card, but I've always liked seeing him plus the Lumineer. They always seem to work really well together. Last off, because this card, it's a hard once per turn now, so you only want to play 1 Red Eyes. He's not too great, but if you, the idea here is if you can dump him off of the Dragon Ravine, and then you can bring him back with like a Pisty or something, and then you can use his effect once, bring back another dragon, and he's just your one-time sort of extender there. So you don't need more than 1. With his new errata, you can only kind of use his effect once, and so you don't want to draw him either. You want him in your deck, or you want him in your graveyard. So just 1 copy of Red Eyes, no more than that, and I think that's fine. You can even cut him out if you wanted to. I still like seeing him occasionally. He does help there. Just another extender here, your Monster Reborn. You can actually make you can make use of this card the same turn you play it as an extender. So yeah, Triple trade in, just you're playing a lot of level 8s and to kind of unbrick your hand. Trading helps there. Melody, you can search out all your big dragons basically with Melody except for Red Eyes. But yeah, triple there. 1 for 1 is great. Just another extender, a way to get out any of your stones that you need to, or any of your sages or whatever. Obviously, Sage won't get his effect if you summon him with the 1 for 1. So ideally, you're gonna be trying to get out a white stone here with a 1 for 1. That's just an extender. Chaos Space, another good card, works really well in this deck. You can recycle a bunch of stuff with it. You can recycle the Collapse Serpents and the Busters here. You can also recycle stuff like this, or you can search out stuff. So you can search out all the Chaos Dragons, you can search out Alternative, all of this right here. So serves a lot of purpose in the deck and helps to make it a little bit more consistent while also generating you some card advantage later down the line. Ravine here only at 1, because you can search Ravine off of a Ramulus, so you don't need to really play more than 1. And yeah, it just helps to dump some stuff to the graveyard, and you can kind of combo off there. Boot Sector also 1 because you can search it off with Striker Dragon. So that's the idea of just playing the 1 copies of each because they are searchable. These cards are always accessible in your extra deck, so it almost like you always as long as these are in your deck, you almost always have access to them. So that's why you just play the 1 copy of each. You don't really want to draw them, and you don't really want multiple copies of them. Next off, just another extender card. The card World Legacy Guard Dragon. Basically, you're gonna use this to bring back your stones and act as a extender. Sometimes you'll move your dragons around a little bit on the field, but not too much. It's just another optional card. You can also play Return of the Dragon Lords and stuff like that, but I don't think that's super duper necessary. Return of the Dragon Lord is kind of in the deck because we're gonna be mostly just setting using Lumineer as kind of our main extender, and Return of the Dragon Lord is not that great, and it kind of gets bricky in this particular deck. So I opt for the World Legacy, so you can easily go into Halki Firebrax a little bit easier with the World Legacy rather than Return. Quick Launch, just for the Strike package here. Yeah, triple, just another extender, and yeah, that's really it. That's all it serves is the extender here. And then lastly, Call by the Graves, because we are kind of a goal first deck primarily. And yeah, Call by the Graves helps to protect us from all the hand traps and stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't protect you against Nibiru, but you know, if they got Nibiru, they got Nibiru, right? So yeah, that's basically it for the main deck. The extra deck's pretty straightforward, and you can customize this however you like, but there are a few cards where I think you need to play for sure to make this deck work. And yeah, I'll kind of go over it real quickly here. So Borreload, it's really easy to get out Borreload in this deck. Just because you are playing the Strike package, you can easily get 2 level 4s with like the Buster Dragons or the Collapse Serpents plus the Strike or a Tracer here. Easily go into a Savage Dragon. Oftentimes you're gonna equip a Saruja to the Savage Dragon, so you have like almost like 4 negation. So I'd say it's pretty good. So yeah, I would go into that. Spirit Dragon and Azure, it's kind of like you'll go into this occasionally, and then you'll maybe summon out the Azure, but you rarely ever synchro into any of these cards right here. They're kind of your backup plan or a way to kind of protect your board. If you think your opponent's got like a Regeki or something like that, you can just go Spirit Dragon during their, their standby phase or whatever. You can just sacrifice or tribute the Spirit Dragon and summon out the Azure and place like a protection blanket over your board so they can't just Regeki it. So that's what it's for. It's just to protect your board. You can also play Dingisu, the Mech Knight guy, or the the level 8 Exceed. He does a pretty good job at protecting your board also. So Dingisu is another option here. The rank 8 is very flexible in terms of what you can go into. There's a ton of rank 8s in the game, and you can just choose any of them and they'll mostly work with the deck. So yeah, so rank 8 is pretty flexible. Numero 1 Dragon here is to combo off with the Jaglubion. If you don't know, if you have like Jaglubion plus like another like Exceed or something, you can smack someone for 17k with the Numero 1 Dragon. So that's a kind of a one shot right there. If they don't really break your board, or they don't do anything, you can play Numero 1 Dragon and just one shot someone. So that's why he's here. Yeah. This guy is kind of I guess the biggest beater you can bring out with just two level 8s. So that's why he's here. His effects don't really matter that much. He doesn't really do anything. But yeah, he's just here as a 4K body that's just requires um, two two level 8s, and he's namely here to beat over stuff like let's say I guess Red Eyes Dragoon or something if you're playing against him. But obviously Dragoon is banned in this format. So, but yeah, just a level 8 beater or a 4K beater to run over stuff. I mean, I guess you could go into Numero 1 Dragon and make it like a 9,000 attack and run it over, but I digress there. So he could be anything you want. You can play some of the other Galaxy stuff. You can play like the Galaxy Eyes, Cypher Dragons. You can play the full armor package and stuff like that. But yeah, I just play the this guy because he's easily brought out in a big beater. Granted, most of our dragons are like 3k beater. There are sometimes stuff that are bigger than 3k, and so that's what he's here for, is to beat over stuff that are 3k Blue Eyes can't beat over or can't destroy with effects or something for whatever reason. Next off, Hope Harbinger at 2. This deck oftentimes can bring out 2 Harbingers in a turn, so oftentimes you have enough rank 8s to actually go into Jaglubion, bring out one of the Harbingers with Jaglubion, and then have another 2 rank 8s, and then bring out another Harbinger. So it depends on your matchup. If you think you're playing against a very spell heavy deck, double Harbinger will basically seal the game there. So double Harbinger is pretty good. Yeah. Or if you think you're playing against a monster based deck, or a deck that might be playing Nibiru, you can always try to bring out Photon Lord, the Photon Lord first, to kind of give you some protection against hand traps and Nibiru, and then you can combo off, and then go into the rest of your deck and combo off from there. You can also play like Felgran, or I guess like I said, Dengisu, some other stuff. But I think the Photon Lord here is pretty good. Safe bet to play. And then you got Jaglubion just for the easy 3k body plus another 3k body. So one rank 8 that brings out 2 3k bodies is pretty good. And he's got some form of protection on himself. You can't your opponent can't target it with card effects, so pretty nice there. And yeah, and they don't kill him, that you can bring out another 3k beater or 4k beater with his effect again. So that's why he's here. And then the rest of your links are just to climb. Ideally, you always go into Crystron, and then you go into like a Pisty or a Striker Dragon, or you go into a Ramulus, and basically you combo off from there with those 3 cards, and then you generally end up with a Saruja. You use Saruja's 4th ability right here, because you're usually gonna have like a bunch of like bodies on the board. You're gonna send all the Blue Eyes that you've drawn off of the White Stones, send them all back to the deck, draw 4 brand new cards basically, or 3 brand new cards. It is 4 brand new cards, and oftentimes that's enough to kind of push you far ahead. And for especially someone who is playing against this deck and doesn't know what the purpose of Sharuja is, if they don't negate his effect, you essentially will have a full board with like 5 or 6 cards in your hand by the time you end your turn. So you will have some sort of like backup play if they do somehow break your board. So that's the idea of Sharuja. He's the main component of the combo, he's one of the components of the combo, but especially with Halcyon Fibrax is the main heart and soul of the combo that will allow you to kind of extend your way all the way until you have like 4 or 5 big rank 8 monsters out on the board. And so generally, what I end up on is I end up with a Jaglubion, I'll end up with a Hope Harbinger, and I'll end up with like a Savage Dragon, and possibly like another 3k body somewhere, or sometimes I will even end up with like double Harbinger, or even a Photon Lord plus the Jaglubion plus Hope Harbinger and Savage load, and you'll also end up with the seal here very often. So you'll have a seal on board. So you'll have like best case scenario, you'll have 6 monsters, and they're all your exceeds plus like the seal in the extra deck or the extra monster zone there. So yeah, pretty powerful if you can go off first and combo off and face no sort of like interaction, then this deck will definitely be pretty fun to pilot. And yeah, it requires a lot of time and a lot of like sequencing. So if you don't like sequencing, you don't like comboing and stuff like that, then yeah, definitely not a deck to play. It's not as linear as some decks. Like you do go for very similar linear plays, but once you start off with your first play, depending on how your opponent reacts, if they don't react at all, then you can go for the most consistent line. But if they start to react to you and your plays, then you have to go for different lines. So it's not a super linear deck to play, and you do get a bunch of random cards in your hand because you are playing a bunch of level 8s that can brick. So depending on how you open up your hand, it requires different types of sequencing and different lines of play to maximize the deck potential. So anyways, I hope that that was a informative video, or whatever's. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, just leave them in the comments. We'll get back to you, and that's it. See you guys next time.